We're so driven by what we see on social media and what's going on around us. We believe that we have to be what we see immediately. So whether it's, I want to be an athlete or a rapper or a musician or a doctor, like you just think it just comes easy. Athletic directing is a integrity-based job because you're not necessarily monitored by your state association. You self-report when you do something wrong. You have to self-report that. So it's an integrity-based job first and foremost. We kind of have a microwave society. We want to see success now. We want it the way we want it. You have to stand your ground with true value-based decisions. The best coaches care about young people and the development of young people as young people, as human beings, first and foremost, before they care about them being the best athlete. Play this sport because you love it and not because you're trying to earn a scholarship right now. You're a freshman. Enjoy it, because if you're playing with fun, then you are just enjoying your passion, and then so many doors open up.
Welcome to the Amanda Gunville Show, and today we're exploring a role that most people think they understand, but very few people actually do. Athletic directors are often seen as the people who oversee games, schedules, and sports programs, but in reality, they're responsible for something so much bigger. They're helping shape the culture. They're developing young leaders. They're supporting their families, and they're helping build community and really just creating experiences that students will carry with them long after graduation. So no big deal. Today's guest, Damian Brown, has spent years doing exactly that. And I'm so excited to learn from his experience, his leadership philosophy, and perspective on why sports continue to matter so much in the lives of young people. So, Damian, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, let's just dive in. I would love to understand your background and how it is that you became an athletic director.
So my journey was it wasn't the normal journey you take to become an athletic director. I started off, I was a PE teacher at a school called DMLK in Denver. I was a middle school slash high school where I started there, and I wanted to become an athletic director. So my path was just gonna go through being a teacher, and then work to getting my license as a assistant principal administrator, and then move into athletic directing, because normally that's what happens. Luckily, an opportunity came available over at a school by the name of Adams City High School. They had a position where they were looking for an athletic director. You didn't have to have your administration license at the time. And I, just completed the application, went out and got the job there. And that began my process of being an athletic director. So it was unorthodox. It's actually more people are doing that now because there's just different schools that allow it that way. But when I became one, it just wasn't that way.
So what was it about the role that drew you in originally?
Being an athletic director was just a passion because athletics has always meant so much to me. Being a PE teacher and a coach, serving kids and giving them the best opportunity to be successful. The same way I was when I was in high school. I had amazing teachers, I had amazing coaches, and they helped mold on their part. They helped mold me into who I was as a person, along with my parents and loved ones.
So along those lines, I love when you say, mold you into the person that you become. What do you think the best coaches all have in common?
Oh, that's a great question. To me, the best coaches care about young people and the development of young people as young people, as human beings, first and foremost, before they care about them being the best athlete. I had coaches who knew how to use athletics as a teaching tool, to better young people as human beings. Our athletic ability and the sports were the catalyst, right? We loved sports, so we were going to be there. We were going to show up. We were going to go to practice. We expected that because that's what we love to do. But they were able to take the athletic portion of it and teach us how to be better young men, how to be accountable to one another, how to communicate, how to deal with tough situations, which is what athletics does. Because as much as I wanted to be a professional athlete, I didn't become a professional athlete. I became an athletic director, which is what most people do is they become something different than a professional athlete. And I had to be a productive member of society, and sports did that for me, and having the right coaches did that for me.
Well, clearly you had incredible traits that brought you to, become a leader in your own way. So I'm so curious because you've now had the privilege of working with so many different student athletes over the years. What traits do you think like consistently predict success in life and not just sports?
I think the first trait is just perseverance. A student athlete has to be willing to persevere. They have to have the ability to be able to overcome, hardships, whatever that might look like, athletically, personally, and then belief in themselves. And maybe the belief in themselves might be even first and foremost. Uh, because it's hard as a young person to not follow along with what everybody else is doing sometimes, or not just do what you see others doing, and knowing that you have an ability in yourself to be successful as an athlete, but not only as an athlete, as a person too. And I think it's hard for young people today, because it's just a different day and age that we live in, and we're so driven by what we see on social media, and what's going on around us, so much so that we believe that we have to be what we are. Yeah, we have to be what we see immediately. So whether it's I want to be an athlete or a rapper or a musician or a doctor, like you just think it just comes easy. And I think that people don't understand that it doesn't, and young people don't understand that all the work that comes before you getting there, and they don't see that, so they don't have the belief in themselves to be able to do that.
Hmm. That's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I feel like sports, at least in my experience being an athlete and being around sports my whole career, is that it really does teach you these incredible lessons, like the perseverance muscle that you talk about, because life is going to throw you, forget sports, life is going to throw you 8 million curveballs. And so having that perseverance muscle flexed is so incredibly important. And I think you're spot on with that. And kind of speaking of some of those traits that are so important to success, do you have like can you remember any student athlete that you'll never forget and like what made them special?
Oh, student athletes that I wouldn't forget. I have special student athletes that are just amazing athletes. One that comes to mind that we had at Montbello when I was first at Montbello, kid by the name of Aris Bonds. He was a phenomenal athlete. He was about 6'2", 6'3", probably 205 or maybe 210. But just a freak of nature. He was an amazing athlete. That he's one of the ones that I feel like if had better support system. I don't mean that in a bad way, but if we would have done a better job, even my guess, myself included, because I met him later on in the years, but he only had like 2 years with me before he left. But just an amazing talent, and from what I've heard, he was going through some tough times when he first started with us, as far as like where he wanted to go to school and things like that. But actually went and did some good things. As far as I remember, he went on and played basketball, but the kid could have done anything. He was just his ability is one of those kids that you're like, if that kid knew how much talent he had inside of him, in the beginning, he could have wrote his own ticket. You get to pick whatever school you wanted to. So that was one of the kids that I feel like started where it was tough, and then but he got his life turned around from what I've heard, and is doing good things now. And then another athlete and another kid we had at Adam City, and just an amazing athlete, amazing person, amazing family, comes from an amazing family, all great athletes, but better people along the way, that went on, and unfortunately, he played at a school that just wasn't a powerhouse, and so he didn't get the recognition that he deserved. But his ability was up there with any of the top schools, Power 5 athletic schools across the board, and could have easily done that. But graduated, went on to be a police officer, and is doing great things. So we there's a number of success stories from the beginning of my becoming an athletic director to now.
Well, I love the stories about, these uber talented, players. But I'm curious, like, how do you create a culture where students, feel like they belong, whether they're the star player or they're, the last guy on the bench?
So everything starts with building the correct culture around the school. When you're building a program, you have to build a strong culture of with set standards that are kept at a high level, right? You can adjust the standards, but the standards need to be kept high, and that's where it starts, because you have to hire the coaches. I don't set the standards with the kids. I set standards with the coaches. The coaches then set the standards with the kids. So you have to have very good, credible coaches who understand that having high expectations means not giving in to student athletes because either they're the best athlete or the one that you need. I can't lose this athlete. If you have an athlete who is not going to buy into the program and wants to feel like they can do whatever they want within the program, you have to be willing to, if you can't work with that athlete, you have to be willing to let that athlete go and say, you know what, I have other players here and athletes here who want to buy into the program. So you have to set a high standard and expectations. You also have to understand the difference between your players and athletes, because to build a successful program, not everyone learns the same. Not everybody is this. It's like your kids. If you have kids, all your kids are not the same. And so I have 4 of them, and everyone has to be dealt with differently. My oldest, I get on him, probably a little bit more, but he needs that. He needs me to be, sometimes I have to fuss or argue with him a little bit more than I do with anyone else because of the pushback, but he needs it and he understands that. Whereas my middle son is more of a conversation, because if you make him upset, then he really doesn't want to talk to you. He's going to block out everything you say to him. My youngest son is a mixture of the two, where he really understands and actually gets more of it because he has seen his older siblings kind of do their thing. And then I have a daughter, and my daughter's perfect, so I won't even talk about her. So in that aspect, but that's the same thing you have to do when you are a coach. You have to understand that every athlete is different. So you have the ones you have to get on all the time because they just kind of push back and maybe feel like they can do their own thing. But you have to, and they still might be bought in, but you have to understand that there's some that you have to just talk to, and you can't be too hard on them, or maybe you fuss at them as much because they're going to tune you out, and then you're going to lose them. And then you have the ones that just get it sometimes. So it's understanding that you have different athletes and that you have to set a high standard, but you have to know how to reach them where they are. That's like the new word to use, find people where they are. So that's what you do, honestly. And then you have to understand that being a coach is being a teacher, no different from being a teacher in a high school or an educator in any way. Just because you don't have the credentials or the license sometimes doesn't mean you're not a teacher of young people.
Yeah, and it sounds like a psychologist and a
Yes.
therapist.
You wear all the hats.
All the
You wear
hats.
all the hats. Yes, as a
Yeah.
as a coach, you have to be, and that's why being a good coach is very hard to do and probably very taxing, because to do it at a high level, you're able to understand that you have to wear so many hats and you have to know when to put those hats on.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, I love how complimentary and you're edifying the skills of coaches and the things that they have to do. But listen, you as an athletic director have to wear so many different hats. And you have to make a lot of really difficult decisions all the time. So when you're doing that, like, how do you handle criticism when, I mean, you know what you're doing or you believe what you're doing is right? Like, how do you handle that?
I believe this: if you are doing the right things, you're going to get criticized. You're going to have the backlash. People are going to fight against you. They're going to argue with you. They're not going to agree with you. when everybody's agreeing with you and everyone loves you, you're probably making it real easy for you're just complimenting everybody. You're giving them what they want, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're being a good athletic director. Athletic directing is a integrity-based job, because we often are you're not necessarily monitored by your state association. You are, but you're not. It is a you self-report when you do something wrong. You know, you don't. You're not really getting reported by someone else saying, "Hey, you didn't check grades this week. You played a player who was ineligible." When you find out that maybe you've done something accidentally, because a lot of times that's what happened, you have to self-report that. So it's an integrity-based job first and foremost. And so, number one, you have to have a good value system and integrity in what you do. You have to really care about building a successful program that allows student athletes to see successes, and experience an amazing athletic experience for themselves. So you really have to it starts with you as an athletic director. The program, if ran successfully, I believe you're not making everybody you're not making everybody happy. You are doing what's right by kids. You're holding everything to a high standard. And in a world where everybody wants we kind of have a microwave society. We want to see success now. We want it the way we want it. No one's being treated fairly. A lot of times that's just those are the things you get. You have to stand your ground with true value based decisions that are rooted in what's best for kids and a lot of times rooted in I feel old school ways that we grew up with that we've gotten away from.
Hmm. I've never heard that microwave society. I'm gonna have to steal that one. I want it and I want it now. Yeah, well, speaking of the way that we are raised, right? And we're talking about because parents are so influential in our lives. Sometimes phenomenal, sometimes not so phenomenal. But, in my experience, in my working in the world of sports for all these decades, I've seen so many parents who want to like genuinely connect with their kids and that oftentimes there's like this language barrier, right? But sports is something that you can truly connect with. And I've also seen that like there's all these sports that parents, especially moms, but certainly parents don't understand and they don't know, they don't get it, they don't know it well enough to participate. Either they didn't play it or they've never, been a part of the sport. It doesn't matter. I'm curious if that's something that you see in your parenting communities, where parents really do want to connect, but sometimes they just don't have a common language to do that.
Yeah. In my community, we have a great community, but we have a lot of parents who have to work one or two jobs. So our demographic is a little bit different from more of a affluent, financially stable families, where money's just not the issue. So the thing that our parents want is just they want the support to help see their kids get the opportunities that they want that they feel they deserve. And that's my job and my role as an athletic director to give that to them. And when I say that, I don't mean that everybody's just doesn't have money. It just means that a lot of people have to work a few more jobs than just the one job that's able to pay for everything just because everything's so expensive nowadays. Shoot, I should work another job to be honest with you. But yeah, so I think that when you're dealing with parents who are, I guess, that may not understand like the world of athletics, because it's not that they don't want to. It's either one, I don't have the time to put into it, like you might see in my community. The other side of it may be just parents who are new to sports or new to that sport because maybe they played a sport and now they're a kid. I feel like we're finding more kids now playing different sports from what their parents played, and so they don't know that sport as well. I mean, we offer opportunities for parents to get involved, ask questions, open door policies across the board for all of our coaches and for myself at my school. But we're here to support and help any parent that may have whatever questions that they have. I talk to parents all the time. Being a Colorado native, I know a lot of the parents who have kids around that either attend my school or attend other schools. So I get phone calls from parents who are, "Oh, this is what's going on at my school. What should I do? How should I speak to the athletic director? Should I run to the coach? What should I do? I want to call the athletic director first." And I walk them through the steps because a lot of our steps are just similar. You have a chain of doing things as opposed to just because you're upset with the coach doesn't mean you first jump the coach and go to the athletic director, or jump the coach and the athletic director and go to the principal. We have to teach our kids different ways to handle tough situations and stuff. So you deal with so many different things, but open door policies. And I would encourage parents just to ask the questions that they may have to their coach or to their athletic director if it's regarding a sport that they don't know. I'm not sure if I'm answering that question correctly, but if they're not quite sure about the sport itself, do your research and ask questions.
Yeah. Well, that literally was going to be, my next question. So I was going to ask you, like, if you could give parents one piece of advice as, they start a new season or a new sport or new school year, what would it be? And it sounds like just go ahead and be proactive, ask questions, have the conversation. And
And then you also teach your kids. My son, it's hard when your dad's an athletic director and an old coach, because I'm quick to say, well, go talk to your coach. You have questions, you have concerns, ask the questions. You have to advocate for yourself, because that's the part of it. So I would tell parents, teach your kid to advocate for themselves first. Before you're upset, before you're mad, before you think that your kid that deserves more playing time and things like that, understand that most coaches should have a way and be able to explain either what your kid needs to do to get more playing time or to correct an issue, and it should start there. Now, if the coach doesn't know how to communicate well enough and get that information out to the kid, then maybe you then want to say, my son's name is Tay, hey, Tay's really concerned because he really wants to become a better receiver or better defensive back. What is it that he may not be doing correctly, that he can get better at, so he can possibly get more time or step into a starting position or whatever that might look like to get better. And then make sure you listen to that. And if you don't know how to help your kid do that, then there's plenty of coaches out there that will help. And I know a lot of times then the parents are like, well, the coach should do that. Yes, the coach does do that, but the coach also has other obligations along the way. So the kid has to also take it upon themselves. My son, I make him watch YouTube videos. We go outside and do things because yes, I know how to do some of them, but my kids also think that I don't know what I'm talking about. No matter how good I've been and playing in college and anything like that, they will still listen to someone that tells them the same thing I've told them before they listen to me at times. So sometimes that happens with our own kids, and you have to understand that if I find a defensive back coach or a receiver coach or a running back coach, and I was a running back, then it might help my kid out. And I get it. Sometimes you don't have the funds to do that or whatever it might be, but there's YouTube, there's so much. You can teach yourself everything if you just go online and find out and make some time to learn about it. So I would tell parents to, one, teach their kid to advocate for themselves. Two, help them wherever they can. Seek outside help if they could, and then talk to the coach and see what the coach says. Now, the coach should be able to explain it too. I also believe that coaches sometimes will just tell a parent what they want to hear, and you got to be mindful of that too. Don't If you have a coach that's, oh, he just needs to continue to work hard, get in the playbook, understand their plays. Okay, what plays is he messing up with or she messing up with? What Be specific so my kid can help your program out, because you might end up with two amazing people playing that position, and now you have more depth. So, there's a lot to it.
yeah. Well, obviously, you're an incredible parent and you've had, the experience across the board, but like what do you think that student athletes need the most from their parents that they kind of rarely receive?
Wow, that's a great question. Being an ex-athlete and coach and being a athletic director, at times I have to step back from all of that when I'm dealing with my kids and just say, "Are you having fun? Do you like the sport?" Because I can get critical myself. "Hey, you know what? You need to get better in that drop back. I watched you and you keep turning your hips too soon and the receiver's getting past you. Hey, when you run your route, you need to be able to continue to move around when you're running a curl route because you got to get into the open holes and open zones. And we've worked on that, and you're not doing. And then that's what they hear when they get in the car, you know. And so sometimes I just try not to say anything, and it's harder to do, especially as a parent who has been an athlete at a high level and as a coach and all of that because we want to see our kids do play to the best of their abilities, but sometimes we gotta understand it's a sport. We want them to have fun, and like I've told my son, I was like, "Whether you get a scholarship and go or not, you're gonna be fine. So, please play this sport because you love it and not because you're trying to earn a scholarship right now. You're a freshman. You're gonna be a sophomore. Enjoy it, because if you're playing with fun, then you are just enjoying your passion, and then so many doors open up. If you're playing with a purpose that I have to have this out of it or get something out of it, then it's gonna be so hard, and then you're gonna be very disappointed if it doesn't happen that way as well. So, yeah, I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah. But don't you feel like when you kind of inject something with fun, it does elevate your game, right? Because now you combine work ethic, knowledge, practice, and then you add like the lighter fluid of fun.
Yeah. The minute coaches, I believe, continue to teach with fun and have kids do things that are a little outside of what's normal when practice is happening, and you breed competition with laughter and love, you're gonna you're gonna breed a successful program because the kids already want to play the sport, but when it starts to feel like it's more work than a sport for fun, then your kids are overthinking. Your kids are not giving it their all. When a kid makes a mistake and immediately looks at the coach, that's not a good thing because they're worried about what the coach thinks, as opposed to just being like, I made the mistake and coach believes that I'm gonna get it right. And I get it. Your coaches get, very emotional about this, but most coaches, at least here in Colorado, are not making the type of money. This isn't their end all be all job. They do this. They have to remember that they do this because they're passionate about the sport. They want to support kids. And if your team can believe in the coach in the coach itself and the coaches that are around, and those coaches are breeding excitement and fun through the program while they're teaching it, you'll take a team that doesn't have the best athletes and they'll go very far.
Isn't that the truth? Well, you said something earlier about as these kids are coming up and might, I think you were talking about one of your athletes that you remembered so well, and that he had this 5A talent, but maybe wasn't in the right program to showcase that talent. And we had this great conversation a couple days ago, you and I, about some of the things that you're working on that is kind of trying to close that gap to give these students the opportunities that they truly deserve. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's thanks for asking about that. That's my company, Now You Sports. It's a high school to college recruiting platform. It's not any different from any of the other programs, other than that what sets us apart when it comes to the platform's the same as any good platform should be. But the difference is you actually work with me. I don't have a large team of people behind me. I do it because it's a passion project for me, being an athletic director and realizing that there's some programs that really just kids are not getting the opportunities to be seen as far and wide as other programs. Coaches already have a tough job trying to build programs and help their kids possibly get college scholarships along the way. And what my program does is it works hand in hand with high school coaches to help support them. If you have a handful of coaches that and I have a handful of coaches that I know, some might cross over, but there's going to be some that I know that you don't know, and some that you know that I don't know. Then we are casting a larger net for kids to be seen, and giving them the best opportunity to receive maybe some scholarship opportunities that they wouldn't have been able to have if it was just coach. There's some coaches that are new and they just don't even know where to start. So we work with coaches that way. It really is more about a partnership with myself, my company, and the high school coaches. It's also a partnership with the college coaches because either side needs the athletes. Either your high school, your high school coach wants to give you the best opportunity to be seen, and those colleges want to find those athletes that will help build their program. And so if we can do a better job of casting a larger net for the kids, then those parents who are just want their kid to have the opportunity. We can't guarantee anything, but what we can guarantee is that we're going to cast a larger net for your kids. And when I say we, I mean me, because like I said, this isn't a huge company that way. This is one person working hard for your student athlete. The things that I bring to it is that I'm still a current athletic director, educator, assistant principal. I understand grades and I understand the NCAA process. I understand the clearinghouse process. I'm also a father who's had to deal with this myself for my kids. So yeah, it's really, like I said, it's a passion project of mine. Our price points are way lower than the ones that you see out there because I'm not doing this for the money of it. Of course, I gotta pay for my platforms and my other things like that, but it's not meant for me to go and become a millionaire off of. It's really meant to just help and support kids in all athletics, not just football, in any sport. We're able to support kids all the way. We even help. I mean, girls flag football is huge. It's growing rampantly. So there's so many opportunities, and those young ladies deserve just as much as any other sport that's out there to be able to get opportunities. So we help there, esports and band.
Oh
So
my goodness.
we cover it. Yeah, we cover it all.
No kidding. So I did not even realize that I knew band, but because there's been a couple cool movies about it, but certainly didn't know
Yeah, yeah.
that has that as well. But so that's interesting that you partner also with their current coach. So it's not necessarily, kids at your school, it's kids across other high schools. So if I'm a newer coach or a coach who just has not really been active in the recruiting process, what are, some of the top like one, two, three tips that you would give that coach if they say, hey, I really do want to be a better advocate for my athletes, but I just don't know where to start. What would you tell them?
I think you have to have a plan. I think all coaches should have a plan to know what their incoming seniors or juniors, I would have those ones to be more specific what their plan is, what they want to do. I know when I was a junior, my coach was going into my junior year. My coach was like, "Hey, you have great talent, and I think you could play at a higher level. Is that something you're interested?" And so I was like, "Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess so." I didn't even think twice about it, being a first generation in my family to go to school. And so I think that you have to have a sit down with your kids, and then you have to be realistic about where they're at and say, talk to them about being open. Because the thing is that if you're a power five top college type student athlete, you don't need my recruiting service. And to be honest with you, your coaches don't have to do a lot of work because those coaches are going to find you. Your numbers don't lie. And if you're a basketball player, your shooting percentage doesn't lie, your steals don't lie, your assists don't lie, your defense doesn't lie. All that data can be tracked. Baseball, football. So if you're top in your class, you're pretty much good. But for those students who are like on the bubble, lower D1s and then below, you might need a little bit more assistance. And so your coach should work a plan out with you to make sure that you are able to get seen and meet with parents. But like I said, that's a lot of extra work when you have other things to do, and that's where a company like mine comes into play to help support you because they can only do so much. But I would say I would work out a plan if I was a coach. coaching today, and my coach at my high school, my boys or football coach does an excellent job. Really works out a plan, and you'll see coaches coming into our building all the time. He brings in athletes all the time. Sometimes he's had athletes that don't go to our school because he supports kids all over the place. But I don't mind that as long as kids are getting opportunities.
Oh, I love that. What a legacy too to leave behind, to be known as that resource, known as that person who really invests in young athletes. So that's incredible. I'm curious for you. Um, let's just say it's like 20 years from now, and you're at the grocery store, and one of your former student athletes, introduces you to their spouse and their kids. What do you hope that they remember about the athletic program that you helped build?
That's another good. You've got some really great questions you're asking. For myself, I'm 50 now, so I run into to student athletes that are out of school already and have families. And the best thing that I think I've heard is that they know that I've cared, how much I cared. When I run into student athletes, or not even just student athletes, students that I've either taught, or student athletes that that know that I was their athletic director, I think they understand, and I would want them to just know how much I cared. I want them to say, Mr. Brown was one of my teachers who truly cared. Sorry, one of the people who truly cared about me. He didn't make it easy on me. He gave me tough love, with love being the first part of it, and then the tough being the second part of it. And he instilled in me some things that I remember to this day, even if I didn't think about him at the time he was telling me, and but I remember to this day, and that's what I would want any student that I run into to say to me, and to if they introduce me to their family, that this Mr. Brown cared about me, and made me feel special.
Oh, I love that so much. And, lead with love and toughness comes, second. But I mean, isn't that the truth for all of us that like our favorite teachers they tended to be the most strict ones, and then the coaches are the ones who were tough because they made us grow as a human. And when we grow, that feels great, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had amazing the reason why I'm even in the position I'm in is just because I really did have amazing coaches and teachers. I won't go down. It's a whole. I tell you a story forever, but I had amazing. I lived with one of my coaches, Coach Lawrence Chavers, who's currently the AD at Arapahoe High School. I lived with him for a while, and he took me in because I was a little bit of a knucklehead for my mom, and he had super high expectations for me. He set the tone from the day I moved in with him, and that was just for 2 years. It was like my sophomore year, into my junior year, and then half of my senior year. And he set the expectations. He taught me how to be accountable to myself first so that I could be accountable to others. Just an amazing person that really took me in, and I watched how he moved. It wasn't always the words that he said. It was just how he moved, how he did things. I would just watch and I would be like, that must be what you're supposed to do because it looks good, it seems right, and it seems fair. And then I had amazing coaches who also did the same thing. They always kept me accountable for my actions and for who I later was gonna be in life. So we had a model that's my family model. And if you look around any kind of building that I've been at somewhere, you'll find a thing that says no excuses, just results. And the year we won state at Eagle Crest High School in football, that was our motto for the year. No excuses, just results, which means no matter what happens, whether you can control it or not, don't make excuses about it. Find a way to create results. It might be your fault sometimes, it might not be your fault, but don't make excuses. Just work around it and find a way to create results. We won state that year because no matter what was going on, we were going to correct whatever was going wrong so that we could be a successful team. And that's a great life model.
What a testament to the power of the people who are shaping you as a young person. It doesn't have to be family, clearly it
It's not always
was
family.
not. Yeah. That's just,
you know?
I mean,
Yeah.
such a great story. So, if somebody wanted to learn more about your program and want to utilize your services, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
You can send me an email. It's nowusports@gmail.com. If you can shoot me an email, you can check us out at nowusports.com. And you can set up a time to meet with me and discuss whatever you want to discuss with when regards to recruiting for your kid or even athletic directing questions. I don't mind. You can always reach out to me there and shoot an email, and I would love to support any parent or kid who thinks that they need some support.
Well, they would be lucky to have you. I can tell you that because you lead with such passion and such heart. And I'm so thankful for you spending your time with us today to, just impart some of your wisdom that you've gotten over all of these years. And I'm just so grateful for your time. I'm so grateful for you, sharing your heart with us today. And for those of you who are listening to this, and are inspired by some of Damian's stories and the people that impacted him and how he's impacting. Like you probably a name, a coach, a teacher, a parent, a mentor came to mind. I encourage you to reach out to that person because I feel like it's got to mean the world. I'm sure you, Damian, have had that happen where people have reached out to you and said thank you. And I'm sure you've done that for the people who kind of righted your ship. But I think it's so important to express gratitude because sometimes people don't realize the impact that they've had on your life.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah,
Lead with love.
we love, I love it. Well, thank you so much. And we appreciate all of you watching. And thank you again, Damien, for joining us. Until next time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.